Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 15 of Superannuated Starman. If this is your first time listening, please consider going back and checking out some of our other episodes. I'm your host, Sean Ryan, and today I'll be joined by Chris Duerksen and Cory Braucks. In this episode, we'll be discussing one of the most popular fighting games of all time, Street Fighter II. Before I start the history, I want to thank Scavendish McJensen for making the suggestion to cover this game through our YouTube comments. Because there's so much ground to cover with Street Fighter II, I don't really know where to begin, but I'm going to do my best to make this segment sound coherent. And if either of you have anything to chip in, feel free. This segment's probably going to be a little longer than it has been in the past, mostly because of how much information there is. But also because we're covering a fighting game for the first time, there may not be a lot to talk about when it comes to our memories of the game or how we feel about it today. Before we can talk about Street Fighter II, we need to first cover the original Street Fighter. It was developed and published by Capcom. The original game debuted in Japan in the arcades in 1987 and was immensely popular, though it did have some setbacks. Instead of the standard 6-button layout that eventually became the standard for the series, there were two large buttons, one for punches and one for kicks, that you had to slam your fist down onto. I did a little bit of research, and I can't get a definitive answer if how hard you hit it determined if it was a light, medium, or heavy punch or kick, but they eventually decided to go away from this button layout because people were actually injuring themselves and causing damages to the arcade cabinets. And to add some context about just how popular Street Fighter franchise has become over the years, as of June 2022, Street Fighter is the highest grossing fighting game media franchise of all time at $12.2 billion US dollars. Despite how popular the first Street Fighter was, most of the characters in the game didn't reappear in a sequel, and some wouldn't reappear in the series until much later. In the original game, you played as Ryu and fought in the Street Fighter tournament against 8 other challengers until you arrived at the final 2 bosses, Adon and Sagat. Ken was present in the first game, and while it was possible to play through the game as Ken, it could only be done if a second player joined and then beat Ryu and just continued the game from there. 3 years after the release of Street Fighter in 1990, a spin-off was released on the NES titled Street Fighter 2010: The Final Fight. The game has virtually nothing to do with Street Fighter other than its namesake. However, in the English localization, the main protagonist's name was changed from Kevin to Ken to try to add some continuity. Another piece of trivia, Final Fight, a side-scrolling beat-em-up, was originally promoted as Street Fighter 89, but they chose to rename the game to Final Fight to distance themselves from the Street Fighter series, but it's been confirmed that the two franchises share the same universe. The sequel, Street Fighter II, was released in 1991 and now featured 8 different playable characters. You had Zangief, Ken, Blanka, Dalsim, Ryu, Guile, E Honda, and Chun-Li. I want to caveat that there were eventually far more than 8 playable characters, but for now, I'm just talking about the original arcade release. After a player chooses a fighter, they must defeat the 7 other challengers before facing off against the 4 non-playable characters known as the Grandmasters. These characters included Balrog, Vega, Sagat, and M. Bison. For those of you that don't know, there's some significant regional differences when it comes to the name of the 3 of the 4 Grandmasters. Sagat was a returning character from the first game and didn't change, but the other 3 were changed in other territories. Balrog, as he's known in North America, is an African-American boxer. He was originally named Mike Bison, or M. Bison as he's most commonly referred to. He's named so after the former professional boxer and heavyweight champion, Mike Tyson. It should also be noted, in the first Street Fighter game, there was another African-American heavyweight boxer named Mike. However, per Capcom, these are 2 separate characters. To avoid the obvious connection between Mike Bison and Mike Tyson, they changed M. Bison to Balrog. The Spanish assassin and bullfighter Balrog, as he was known in Japan, had his name changed to Vega. Lastly, Vega was renamed to M. Bison. Because of this name shuffle, in some international Street Fighter tournaments, the three fighters are simply referred to as Boxer, Claw, and Dictator. I really hope.
Did they ever mention why they like pivoted everybody, or did they like? I don't understand the thought process behind that personally. I mean, like I get it. They wanted to like drop the Bison with Balrog because like they didn't want the whole
Mike Tyson.
Yeah, they didn't want to get sued by Mike Tyson or whatever. But like, why'd you have to like bounce between three of them? Why didn't you just switch like?
I suppose. So if you switch M. Bison and who was Vega at the time, Balrog, as we know him, the boxer, the name Vega to me does not really flow very well.
I guess. I mean, like it does certainly fit better for like a spindly dude with a claw on his hand.
But at the same time, Vega would have gone great because the guy's in Vegas.
Yeah, I guess.
Maybe if he was named Vegas. But his name's
Vegas.
Vega.
But yeah, I just like it just never made sense to me that they would go through that much effort. And especially like instead of giving them new names, they just recycled the names. Like that just is so much confusion.
Yeah.
But yeah, I always thought that was interesting.
Oh man, I mean like I didn't know any of that stuff until we were getting into this, so.
Oh really?
Balrog Balrog is always Balrog to me.
Yeah, like in the older games, you can still see it.
Yeah, in some of the early manuals, there are some misprints. At least from what I read, I've never seen them myself. So the development history for Street Fighter II, it took roughly 2 years with a team of around 40 people, which is pretty big for this time period that we're talking about. They had a budget of $2.4 million, which is roughly 4.8 in today's currency. An interesting note, though it's not the first fighting game to have a combo system, that honor belongs to Culture Brain's Shanghai Kid, released in 1985. The combo system.
Classic.
Yeah, everybody. Yeah, when you think of combo system, you think of Shanghai Kid.
By that good old studio Culture Brain.
So the combo system in Street Fighter was actually an accident. Noritaka Funamizu, who served as a producer for the game, noted the extra strikes were possible while conducting a bug check of the car smashing bonus stage. He thought the timing required was too difficult to make it a useful feature, but decided to leave it in. Following this, skilled players learned that they could time several attacks together, leaving no time for the other player to recover. Due to the game's popularity, it was ported to nearly every home computer in the early 90s and eventually got ported to most home consoles and handhelds in the mid to late 90s. Because of how many ports and revisions there are, I'm not going to mention all the release dates that go along with it. That's just far too much. It would take way too long, but I will include the month and year for most of the notable ones. There were several revisions and updates to Street Fighter II. The first was Champion Edition, which released in March of 1992, which added some balance updates as well as allowing two players to select the same character, and the second player had to use a palette swap. This mirror mode was not possible in the first Street Fighter. Do either of you know anything about Crazy Auto? This is not Street Fighter related, but have you ever heard of the game Crazy Auto?
No.
I think I've heard of it at one point, but I don't recall what it is at all.
So this is a little bit of interesting video game history. Crazy Auto started as a modification to the original Pac-Man. Some dudes went and hacked the game, and the game that they created, Crazy Auto, eventually became Mrs. Pac-Man. Very similar to this, a Taiwanese hacking group developed an arcade modification of the Champion Edition that is known as the Rainbow Edition. They changed the logo to this rainbow hue, hence giving it its name. The mod featured some gameplay changes, but the most significant aspect was the game was significantly faster. They also had things in the game where Ryu's Hadouken, when you fired it, you could then aim it at like a 45-degree angle and it could start to travel up in the air.
Oh,
that'd be cool.
It is theorized that Akuma, who became much later in the series, he's able to do something similar to that, and he's able to fire Hadoukens from the air, which you cannot do with Ken or Ryu.
Thus giving you one of the most aggravating boss fights that I could think of as a child.
And I want to talk about him later for sure. But this mod prompted Capcom to start development on Street Fighter II Turbo Hyper Fighting. And a bit on that. So Street Fighter II Turbo Hyper Fighting is known as Street Fighter II Turbo and Street Fighter II Hyper Fighting. They're all three names are correct. All three are the same thing. It was all released in 1992. The next revision was Super Street Fighter II: The New Challengers, which released in September of 1993 and added 4 new characters. You had T-Hawk, which I originally thought his name was Tomahawk.
I thought it was just T-Hawk.
It's actually Thunderhawk.
Oh.
Is his full name. You had T-Hawk, Fei Long, DJ, and Cammy. DJ and Cammy have stuck around through the series, but T-Hawk and Fei Long have kind of faded a bit more in obscurity.
I will say that they did pop up again, and I think the 4th or 5th game, somewhere in there. But yeah, they weren't really as popular as the other two.
No, and especially Cammy.
Oh
and
yeah,
I think
everybody
that's
loves Cammy.
I think that's also because you had another female fighter in the game.
Yeah,
which probably a big reason. And then you have
that's why you got Sakura later on too.
Oh, good point. But this revision was short-lived, as 6 months later, in February of 1994, Super Street Fighter II Turbo hit the arcades. I should also note that with each of these iterations, there were several significant graphical improvements, balance adjustments, and Ken and Ryu had their moves tweaked to make them more unique fighters as opposed to clones of one another. For example, originally you had Ken's Shoryuken, which was identical to Ryu's, but later on, his Shoryuken would catch his opponents on fire. There was also the Hurricane Kick, which would knock down the opponent as opposed to just striking them once or twice. I can't remember who that is, which one is which, but those are some of the examples I'm talking about. There were several sequels that followed Street Fighter II, but a numbered sequel wouldn't come along until Street Fighter III in 1997, and the series laid kind of dormant until over a decade later with the release of Street Fighter IV in 2008. And since then, the series has been thriving. And one last bit of trivia, the 2 unnamed fighters that are seen during the attract mode of Street Fighter II were finally given names and backgrounds in 2016, 25 years after the game released. The Caucasian fighter was identified as Scott, and simply Scott, no last name.
I'm Scott, and I will defeat you.
The African American fighter that was laid out was named Max. Though Scott has not made another official appearance, Max appears in Street Fighter V in the cinematic story mode A Shadow Falls, where he faces Alex and is defeated. He's also seen as a background character in the DLC stage High Roller Casino. And that attract screen is actually modified. There are variations where there is a Caucasian person and an African American person, and there are others where it's just 2 Caucasian individuals. I don't know why. It may be because they didn't want a Caucasian person striking an African American person immediately as soon as the game starts. I don't know. But that is one variation that you see throughout these different types of games. And with that, I think I'm going to stop there with the game's history. There's a lot more that I could add, but I don't want this episode to be 3 hours long. So, go ahead.
I will say that I looked up, because I was just curious. We were talking about sales in terms of fighting games. So Street Fighter as a franchise grossed $12.2 billion to date, not adjusted for inflation. Mortal Kombat, being their biggest competitor, has only made $5 billion. So if you want to talk about the popularity of Street Fighter versus Mortal Kombat, like those are the kind of numbers we're looking at.
That is a massive goal.
And then Virtua Fighter, being like the 3rd highest, is only at $4 billion. So
really, Virtua Fighter?
Yep, Virtua Fighter, because Virtua Fighter came out in '93, and they've cranked one out. Like, they were pretty big on the PlayStation, the PS2, and stuff. So they had a lot of sales there, I think, especially with the whole like making your own, like, they had all those weird customizations where you could like make your own moves and stuff.
I always would have figured that Tekken would have been a
Yeah,
more
I
popular
would have thought,
series.
but I mean, Tekken was like really big in arcades, but I didn't really have too many like games at home, you know.
Oh, I used to play the hell out of Tekken Tag Tournament.
Oh yeah, I mean, but like, how many titles like actually made it into the household?
I don't know. That's a good
Anyway,
question for another
but
episode.
yeah, so when you're talking about the big three, like you had Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, then Virtua Fighter. Virtua Fighter and Mortal Kombat together are still 3 billion shy of Street Fighter. So it's a pretty big franchise.
That is insane. When we get back, we're going to discuss our memories of Street Fighter 2. Until then, enjoy this great music, Ryu Stage. Welcome back, everyone. And we have a late addition to the podcast. We have on the show with us
It's me.
Kyle. Kyle, how you doing?
I'm doing very well. Thank you very much.
So we're here talking about Street Fighter 2. Will you share with us your childhood memories of this game?
Okay, so Street Fighter 2 is on the arcade. Does everyone remember this?
Yes.
It was a arcade cabinet, one of those things with joysticks, and you put quarters in it. And then you got to play against either a person or against the computer.
Or a camera TV.
Oh, whatever. We used to, anyway, my mother and Cory and I, my mother would drag Cory and I to the airport to pick up my grandma when she came in from Oklahoma. And she would either just straight up, her terminal was like near a bar with a couple cabinets in it. And one of them was Street Fighter 2. So that was kind of what we did. Like, hey, don't bother me. I'm going to read a book. Here's $1. Go play Street Fighter for 20 minutes. If the $1 doesn't last you the amount of time necessary for grandma's plane to come in, go find some carts in the airport to bring them to the machine and then get a quarter back and then go keep playing that. So we would literally, like,
Yes, I recall
90% of the
this now.
time, we would literally find carts around the entire airport to bring them back to the machine to play Street Fighter 2.
How
think-
old were you?
We were probably 7.
Yeah,
Cory
it
was
was
probably
like
around
7
5.
and 5, somewhere in
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
The good old days of a 7 and 5-year-old running around at an
Oh
airport
yeah,
by
just
themselves.
completely unsupervised, like doing menial labor for quarters. We were
Yep.
basically homeless at this point.
It was awesome. So yeah,
This is
Cory liked
amazing.
Blanca, I think. I liked you or Ken or Chunners. But then we kind of grew into it. We got Street Fighter 2 Turbo, the new challengers for Christmas.
We had Super Street Fighter 2.
Yeah, the new challengers with
Yes.
Cammy and T-Hawk
Yep.
and DJ and
Fei Long.
Fei Long. Yeah, Fei Long, the Bruce Lee guy. Yep, and that's kind of our major introduction to the console versions. And we played the hell out of that game.
Cory, you got anything to add?
Well, yes. I will say that I also recall this being a big thing, like in a lot of arcades, and being able to play like the Mall of America. I remember there's like a big thing. I don't know if you were with me, Cobb. Like I went with like Grandma and Grandpa one time. We went to the Mall of America.
Harold at the one on the 3rd floor.
Yeah, and then
Yep.
there was like they had like the big like weekend like tournament like where all the kids were running around. Do you remember this?
I do, yeah.
Yeah, and so like there's just a bunch of like crazy children running around screaming and playing fighting games, and like they were giving out like little like tokens and stuff from the ticket counter, and it was just a big cool thing for everybody. So like it was a big childhood thing, and then
Were
this
there
was
any
also
prizes?
I think there were, yeah. I don't recall the specifics of it, but like I do recall getting like a ribbon or something, and then they were handing out like I think they were handing out like plushies of like Ken and Ryu
Oh,
and
that'd be
maybe
cool.
T-shirts. So they were doing stuff like that, but it was a lot of fun. And then this was also like a really easy title for us to play like as a group as kids. Like you'd have your friends come over and then bust this out, and then we'd sit down, and since the fights are so short, you'd end up like just trading off controllers and trying to like see who could keep the controller the longest, and it was usually Kyle.
That was the best way of playing it, though.
Yeah, and
like the roundhouse style with your
yeah,
friends.
like whoever can knock out the excuse me, the like king champion basically. But yeah, like it was a lot of fun. We had other fighting games. We had like I think we had all three Mortal Kombats, didn't we, Kyle?
We got Mortal Kombat 3 the same Christmas or birthday or whatever it was
Yeah,
that we got Street Fighter 2.
I know we had three, and I don't remember if we had one or if Cam had it and we just played
Yeah,
it a bunch.
Cam had the first one. Yep.
Yeah, so we had Mortal Kombat accessible, and then we also had this really weird obscure title, World Heroes, that was another one of our fighting games, and it had like this blue guy with a vest on the cover and like a really old dude with like a helmet and stuff. And I think that was part of like,
yeah, it was an SNK game.
yeah,
it was
it was
awesome.
part of the SNK series, yeah. But yeah, we had that, but like we never really played those as much. I think Street Fighter got the bulk of our time, mainly because like it had a really cool combo system and it had a lot of characters, and
It was
awesome. Just yeah, it was just very bright and like exciting to play, and the music was great. Whereas like Mortal Kombat was kind of more of like a gritty feel to it, and World of Heroes was just kind of bad. But I mean, it was fun, but it was very campy. So
Yeah, that's definitely one of the worst fighting games when it comes to the SNK series. You had Samurai Showdown, the last Samurai. Was it the last Samurai or last
Samurai Heroes or something like this? I know exactly what you're talking about.
There's Samurai Showdown, and I think it's called The Last Blade.
Okay.
Yeah,
there's another fighting game that's really unique and really fun to play.
But yeah, I mean, and then we also rented Primal Rage quite a few times. So like I remember playing that a lot as a kid. And we did play Clay Fighter a couple times too. I do remember that title. It had the big like claymation snowman on the cover.
I wasn't gonna mention that one again.
Yeah, it was really bad.
the cheat code is the skinny guy who has the punches, the jabs.
Yeah.
What about Killer Instinct? Did you guys ever play that game?
We played that a couple of times.
Yeah, it's garbage. I think we enjoyed it at the time.
Whoa.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of Killer Instinct. I had friends who really enjoyed it, but the gem on the crown is always Street Fighter 2. That was always the best one.
I think that Street Fighter is definitely the more refined of all those games. It's just got this charm to it that's really hard to pinpoint why Street Fighter is such an important game. But I really did enjoy a lot of those other fighters of the 90s.
It feels really well programmed and like it's well built and sturdy compared to the other ones.
Well, it had the just charming quality to it. Like I think it really did have to do with like the graphics and the music, and like the characters were all very unique and accessible, and the fighting mechanics were really cool too, where you had certain characters that were like button spam characters. You had certain characters that were based on making patterns on your movements, like you'd do like the quarter circle forward, or you'd make a Z shape with your movement, and then you'd do a certain attack. And you had certain characters that like had kind of the hold down charge mechanic, like you would hold backwards and then push forward and punch, and you would throw out a sonic boom or a psycho crusher. It's like there were different play styles for different people, and I think that's also
crusher?
Yeah, that's M. Bison's.
Yeah, it's the thing he
His
He
jump.
He does his big torpedo attack at you.
Torpedo is a good name for it.
Yeah. But so
M
it was
Bison
just
is easy mode for Street Fighter 2.
M Bison's great. But yeah, it's one of those games where it's like everyone's got kind of a different like niche they can fill and a different way to play, and I think it makes it very accessible for other players. And I think that's one of the bigger selling points. Whereas you look at Mortal Kombat and it's kind of like everyone's got the same flow chart almost, you know. And
Yeah,
some people don't
everyone
have-
punches and kicks the same.
Yeah.
I will admit that was one of the things that added to the replayability for this.
I mean, you look at Mortal Kombat 3 and there's like 6 ninjas and they all have the same, you know, punch mechanic, and they're literally reskins, you know. Everyone looks like Sub-Zero except, you know, one's yellow, one's blue, one's, you know, green or whatever. So
Well, Mortal Kombat 3, Sub-Zero is actually a unique character in that one.
okay, whatever.
You're talking about Mortal Kombat 1 and 2.
Yeah, they're
We'll have to revisit Mortal Kombat all on its own because there's just so much to talk about.
There's plenty to talk about with that one too, but it's very much a cookie cutter format as far as like the animation goes in those games. Whereas this one, like, you know, if you do your heavy punch with Dhalsim, he punches with both fists and he reaches halfway across the map. Whereas a heavy punch with M. Bison is like a big flaming uppercut attack, you know? So it's a very different feel to the characters.
That's a really good point because they did add, I'm not going to say physics, but the characters move in a different way. E Honda feels heavy.
Yeah,
and
the animations matter.
And yeah, and as a sumo wrestler, that makes sense when you compare him to Chun-Li or Vega, much smaller, more limber fighters. They are much more fluid and able to jump around the stage. In fact, I think those are the only two that can actually do wall jumps.
I believe so.
Chun-Li and Vega.
Yeah.
I think those are the only two. Chris, what are some of your memories of the game?
Definitely, this was a go-to for arcade games. This was one game I really liked playing because I could actually I like playing it by myself in the arcade because I could actually get through. Like it felt like my quarters lasted longer compared to other games. Like if you try to play by yourself, like the X-Men game or Ninja Turtles or Simpsons, where if you played those ones by yourself, you get slaughtered right away. Whereas this game, I could actually, like, you felt like you were actually going to make it through the tournament, you know? Like, you'd be playing an arcade and somebody would just come up and pop a quarter in and there goes your progress, yeah.
Is the arcade the first time that your first experience with Street Fighter 2?
Yeah, definitely. I didn't get the, I was asking my mom, she couldn't remember when I got it, but it was either my 12th or 13th birthday. So that would have been around 97 when I finally got it. This was the first Nintendo or Super Nintendo game that I had for my own Super Nintendo. I mentioned before how like my dad has Super Nintendo up at his house, and the family up there, they had the Super Nintendo and had a few games and stuff like this. When I finally got my own Super Nintendo for my birthday, this was the game that we got. I remember because we got the Super Nintendo from a pawn shop in Urbana, and the guy was like, oh hey, you know, it's your birthday, I'll let you pick out any game you want, you know, and I just immediately without second guessing, without looking at any other games, I saw Street Fighter up there, and I picked out Street Fighter right away. And
which version?
I had Street Fighter 2 Turbo.
Okay, that's a good one.
Yeah, it was great. I never really played on turbo mode. Like I always played on original mode. It kind of matched the arcade style. I mean, I messed around with turbo, but I just preferred the standard default speed. But turbo came with the extra. You know, you could play it as the bosses, which was fun. And this was a game that I played. I beat this game with every character. Played, you know.
Wow.
Yeah, like well, it's because I mean, like first it was literally the only game I had for Super Nintendo, and it was right when we moved out to the little farmhouse out in the country. And, you know, shocker, this was before the internet and computers, and, you know, like this was like my only game to play besides, you know, my old NES. So I played the snot out of this game, and like what we were talking about earlier, you know, each character felt so unique and everything. It just, like, I didn't mind, like, Like easy mode was, Ryu or Ken. If I wanted to challenge myself, I'd play as Zangief or Dalsim. Which, Corey, you're saying wasn't that your cheese mode was
Yeah,
playing
so
as?
so Dalsim was definitely my go-to for trying to interrupt other players' gameplay. Like if we were doing the whole like King of the Hill thing to see who could, keep the reigning champion the longest. Um
Just crouch
Dalsim,
punch him. Just
yeah,
crouch
yeah,
punch him the
yep,
whole
yep,
time.
just crouch punch with the heavy attack, and you swing both your fists out, and you reach halfway across the map. So it was either that, or if I was getting spammed by like projectiles, you jump and kick, and your kick reaches halfway across the map. So that was
See,
my way to try to just cheese my way through 2 victories and try to get the controller.
Yeah, and like any little round robin games that I'd play with my friends. Like my cheese ones were mostly E Honda or Chun Li, just because the spam. Like if you corner somebody with that and just
Yeah, those
start,
are good picks.
yeah, like those are like the I'm sick of losing. I'm picking E Honda because I'm sick of losing.
Yeah, pretty much.
I still
Everyone
can't
listening
believe
to
that
this, Chun-Li is actually a good character. She's not garbage, so don't spam.
Say
I still
what?
can't believe that you beat the game with every character. That's insane to me.
I think Corey and I did too, right?
Oh
Yeah,
my god.
I mean, it was over the course of like a year or whatever.
Yeah,
But
yeah. We
we
had a whole
eventually
summer to
did.
play it. Yeah,
Yep.
I think so.
Yeah, I mean, like you kind of had to, and you get to see the cool little victory screens for each of them, which I believe that was only for the Turbo and onward, right? Like that wasn't for the original Street Fighter release, was it?
I'm not super familiar with the original, but yeah, the version we had has a nice ending screen for everyone. Like Chun-Li is a NSA agent, or there's a secret
NSA.
Yeah.
alphabet agency that she's a part of. Guile has his own thing, Ryu has his own thing, Ken has his own thing.
Yeah.
Everyone has their own thing.
I apparently just suck because I'm not good at fighting games, period. But I had
I found that
never-
out when you and I just played a few days ago.
Yeah, I'm and especially as a kid, I never beat the game as a kid.
Really?
Not one. Not
You had
one.
You had unlimited
Against-
continues.
Yeah, you could just play it.
I could always get to M. Bison, but I could never beat him.
Okay, so M. Bison is a charge character. So when he's going back, you have to block. And then you have to kind of keep your distance. And then when he does something, you have to attack him.
But the computer doesn't have to do that. It doesn't have to do the charge up. So when you're playing against another person, you can kind of read their movements a little bit, but the computer can just jump right into any move and attack.
Can they? Because I've always noticed, like, I was literally just playing against
Yeah,
Blanca a few minutes ago.
The computer does cheat.
It
And-
cheats.
Like every time Blanca, I'd see him like doing a little swipe, and then I knew he was about to do the little electric charge thing. Like it looked like he kind of looked like a person, just trying to spam the punch button before you start going in on it.
I don't know how much this game reads player input. I know it's
it
really
does.
really bad on
It certainly
the
does.
Mortal Kombat series.
If-
Yeah,
If you end up like cornering, for example, to try to block if you're at low health, it will just spam you with projectiles.
Chris, do you have anything else you want to add before I kind of go into my memories of this game?
No, I mean, besides just playing on the console and as a kid, my main was Guile because I and still even to this day, like I still can't do the dragon punches for Ken and Ryu. But yeah, Guile, like he had the easiest moveset. He only had 2 specials and his basics were actually really good. So like as a kid, like my go-to was Guile. And he had the coolest haircut.
And dope
That
music.
haircut. For me,
And whips out that comb.
I don't have a lot of history with this game. In 1991, when the game was released, I would have been in first grade. And anytime I was in an arcade, I was usually supervised. But I do remember seeing older kids playing it in the arcade, but I never got a chance to play. One, I wasn't very tall, so I wasn't able to, really reach over the controls. But you just had all these older, bigger kids that were just not going to let a little kid like me get in and play. Wasn't going to happen. It wasn't until years later that I got the game for my Sega Genesis. It was the Special Champion Edition. And the reason that the Sega Genesis has that particular one, which is named off from all the others, is because prior to its release, Street Fighter II Turbo had been announced for the Super Nintendo, so they delayed the Sega Genesis port, added the content from Turbo, and then decided to change the name as well as some other fixes. So we were talking about this a little bit off air, but one reason why I really, really struggled with this game was because I only had the 3-button controller, and that meant to switch between punches, you had to press the start button. So if,
I'm not surprised that you couldn't beat the game then.
Yeah,
So-
that sounds super difficult.
yeah, if you can visualize the old 3-button Genesis controller, you had A, B,
It
and
was
C.
huge.
Yeah, one, it's huge.
It's a big
You
boomerang.
had A, B, and C for your light, medium, and heavy punch. And in order to switch to a light, medium, or heavy kick, you had to reach up with your thumb and press the start button. So if you wanted to come at your opponent as with a kick, and when you landed, you wanted to switch to maybe Ken or Ryu's Shoryuken, that meant you were going to have to jump, kick with the button, push the start button, and then go through that Z pattern to do the Shoryuken. And then you had to kind of read what they were going to do and potentially switch between a kick or a punch, depending on what you saw your opponent do. It was so fucking difficult.
Sean, I believe I've come up with a solution to your problem. Go ahead and get yourself a copy of Super Street Fighter 2 and just play Balrog. And that way you don't have to kick at all.
Yeah, then you just keep punching
Yeah,
repeatedly.
Just punch forever.
I hated Balrog. I thought he was
I
such a
still
lame
hate
character.
Balrog today.
Yeah, Balrog sucks.
Yeah, he just wasn't very fun. But I did eventually get to play the new Challengers for my Super Nintendo, but I was only renting it. So I didn't ever really get a chance to play that game like I would like to, because it was so much easier on a Super Nintendo because you had those extra buttons.
Yeah, that would have helped quite a bit. We were lucky enough. We had one of the 6-button controllers, and then we had like 2 of the 3-button controllers. So we at least had one good controller to play with.
Yeah, I think I remember when that was introduced, the 6-button controller for the Genesis, going like, "Oh, this is like the best thing I've ever seen
is
in my entire
game-changing.
existence." Yeah,
So
can
this
push
is
all
the game.
buttons.
This is the game that basically forced Sega to release that 6-button controller.
That's what I'm aware of for sure. Is that it was so popular that they had to do it.
Yeah, and as we all know, money drives companies, and this game was making money hand over fist.
I mean, if they wouldn't have done it, Mad Cats would have had to put one out for us.
Did Mad Cats exist?
I think
back
No,
in the early
it didn't
90s?
exist at the
90s.
time. No, Corey.
When did Mad Cats come out?
The
That was
first time,
PlayStation 1 is when it came out.
yeah.
Googling
When I think of Mad Cats, I think of the N64 or PlayStation era, and I think of. Do you guys remember Performance?
No.
No,
not at
did you
all.
guys have an N64?
No, we did not growing up.
Yeah, we had to get one like in high school. Mad Cats was founded in 1989. In your face.
Oh wow. Well,
look up their Genesis controllers.
I'm gonna Google it.
all right. So while you're googling it, my favorite character was Vega back in the day because I thought he looked so badass.
Yeah,
He was
Vega's
this
a fun one.
He was this mysterious ninja from Spain, of all places. You know, he had that claw. His
Yeah,
He's
music
a
was great.
banger
His,
sound.
his-
Sound.
yeah.
Yeah.
his stage music was fun,
Yeah.
but I absolutely sucked. So I used Blanca, and that was the character that I used because I would just cheese the computer and my friends with his electric technique.
Yeah, you mash punch
Yeah.
until he starts
Yeah.
to do the thing.
Like I said, I was not good at this game. I never managed to beat it as a kid because M. Bison he was the wall for me. But I got a question for you guys. Does anybody remember or have you ever seen the live action film
Yeah,
Jean-Claude Van
with
Damme?
with Jean
yeah, which
Claude Van
one?
Damme? I'm talking about
and Raul
first one.
Julia.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he plays M. Bison. Yeah.
For me, it was a Tuesday.
I'm sorry. I don't remember any of it. You don't remember?
For you, the day Bison graced your village was the most important day of your life. But for me, it was Tuesday.
Such a cheesy
What a
film,
great film. What are you
but it
talking
was so good.
I
And
mean, if you want to compare Street Fighter to Mortal Kombat in terms of films, like,
Once
let's
again,
go.
yeah, Cory's 100% correct.
okay, the first Mortal Kombat film was infinitely better. Oh yeah, for sure.
I'm shaking my head. They can see this, the audience.
Oh man.
Here's a side question to that. Did you ever play Street Fighter the movie,
Oh,
the game?
No, I've never played that ever. I've seen it. I knew it existed. I have never played it.
They used the
Yeah, it
similar
was like a
techniques
Mortal
to Mortal
Kombat
Kombat.
thing, wasn't
Exactly.
it? Yeah. And it was just like pictures of the actors punching and kicking.
Yeah.
And it looks awful.
Yeah, it looks terrible. But the better film here is Street Fighter 2, the animated movie.
Yes.
Anybody ever watch that?
Yes.
Yeah, I still have it. Well, I think I still have it behind me.
No, I never saw that, which is also why I always, for the longest time until today, I always called Ryu. And what'd you say, Sagat? I always called him Sagat.
Sagat.
Sagat. Sagat.
It was Bob Saget.
Saget, the
It was Bob Saget.
By the way, I dropped the controllers in general chat and Discord if you want to look at them.
Oh, speaking of,
I'll check this out in a second.
We should get people in our Discord chat.
Yeah, we do it every episode, but people, we would love to have more people. We know that we have listeners. I know for a fact. I see the downloads, and I see all the different countries you're coming
all bots. You're all bots. You can't prove it.
That one guy in Ireland, thank you. I'm glad because it added another country to the list. So it's one more metric that we have. So back to the history, our personal histories. There was a hoax, an April Fool's joke from Electronic Gaming Monthly in 1992. Does anybody know anything about this?
No.
Yes.
So for the audience, here's story time. In the Japanese release, one of Ryu's victory quotes was, this is in English, it's translated. If you cannot overcome Shoryuken, you cannot win. This was mistranslated to, you must defeat Shenlong to stand a chance.
Yep, I'm well aware of this.
This caused English-speaking players to believe that there was another fighter called Shenlong.
Wait, okay. Hang on, I'm not even kidding at all. I always thought Shenlong was like the person who trained Ryu and Ken.
Yeah, yes, that was the.
Okay,
yeah, go ahead.
So as a retcon, and to add further confusion, in the Super Nintendo version of the game, in the game manual, it directly references Master Shenlong as master to both Ken and Ryu.
Okay. So I'm not crazy.
You're not crazy.
You're not crazy. And later, the quote was changed to, you must defeat my Dragon Punch to stand a chance. In the April edition of EGM, they claimed that a character could be found if a player using Ryu did not let the player suffer any damage during the entire game, and upon reaching the final match against M. Bison, could neither hit M. Bison nor let M. Bison hit him until the time limit expired, ending the draw 10 times. After repeating this for 10 consecutive rounds, Shenlong would appear out of nowhere and throw M. Bison off the screen, out of the way, and the game's on-screen timer would stop at 99 seconds, resulting in a fight to the death between Ryu and Shenlong.
How many enraged children are out there today?
No. These are old men at this point. How many middle-aged and angry?
How many enraged 35 to 40-year-olds are there out there that were children?
Obviously, it wasn't real. Eventually, the myth was debunked. But this led to the character's first hidden character, Akuma, who appeared in Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo. And the method to fight him... Go ahead.
He was in Turbo?
Yeah.
Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo.
Oh, Super Street Fighter 2. Okay.
Yeah, so the Street Fighter 2 Turbo and Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo.
Okay.
Because it's not confusing enough.
I know.
Yeah, so to fight him, there's a greatly simplified version that is a very dumbed down compared to who's going to be able to make 10 consecutive draws against
Well,
M-Bison?
somebody out there probably did.
I'm sure somebody out there.
Someone out there
got real
did it
close.
just to prove us wrong or whatever.
Probably. But you can also put in a code to use Akuma or Akuma, and he's also easy mode. He is just so good, but it's not fair, to play as him.
Yeah, well, he's also wildly more powerful as an opponent as well.
Yeah, and if you're playing against him in the real game, he's much faster. He's able to get his moves off so much at the rate of like 2 to 3 times faster than anybody else. So there's also a kind of a little bit of trivia which isn't true, and this is actually on the Chris. What's that? The Switch edition?
The 30th anniversary.
Yes, the 30th anniversary edition. So on there it says Chun-Li was the first ever playable female character in a fighting game. That's not true.
That's not true. Oh.
No.
Is that not true?
It's actually a character from a game called Typhoon Girl in 1985.
Some garbage that no one ever played. Okay.
It was Japanese only. No one's played it. But Chun-Li is basically the face of female fighting game characters because she's the first one that made mainstream popularity.
Well, for good reason. Chun-Li is like the best character, one of the best characters in the game.
And one of the most recurring.
And, well, yeah, she's been, I think, a part of everything.
Popularity, definitely true. So some other stuff, and I mentioned this in the Discord, on the cover of Street Fighter II Turbo for the Super Nintendo, you see E Honda and Sagat. If you look very closely between the two of them, you can see Dhalsim floating cross-legged in the middle of the two. He's very, very difficult to make out, but he's
very strange.
I still can't see it.
Oh, we'll get the highlighter out for you.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to see if you blow up the image. Just Google it and then just increase the size.
Is there any reason why he was there?
Who knows? But that's such a weird thing.
Yeah.
Oh, the artist was like, I gotta cram somebody else in this frame.
And this is for you, Cory. During the Montreal Canadiens Dallas Stars NHL hockey game on January 2nd, 2014, a fight broke out. While that fight was going on, Guile's theme started playing throughout the arena.
Guile's theme goes with everything.
So you can actually, if you just Google the NHL or hockey fight Guile's theme, you can listen to it. There's some other music that's playing initially, but right in the middle of the fight, it switches over to Guile's theme, and these guys are just going at it.
What year did this happen?
2014.
Oh, that's awesome.
Considerably a long time after this game first came out.
But Guile's theme has definitely become a meme.
Oh, for sure. But it's also a really good song.
What are we playing for, like, songs in this one? Because I have like 2 or 3.
Every time.
Guile is. Are we doing Guile's theme every time?
No, it's Guile's theme review, the opening to the actual like arcade cabinet.
Okay, that sounds reasonable. I was gonna say just Guile's theme every time is really funny.
That would be, but no, I'm gonna include some other music.
How about 5 seconds of each other music and then switch over to Guile's theme?
Yeah, everything. Yeah, let's do Guile's theme.
No,
how about just me going?
Yeah, I think Ken's is my favorite. But yeah, Guile's is awesome, of course.
It's funny that you mention it because after the segment, we're going to hear Ken's music.
There you go.
Oh, I thought you were about to say Guile's theme.
No, I'm saving that for later. So before we finish up the segment, does anyone else have any memories that they want to share of Street Fighter 2?
That was great, and I enjoyed it.
I just want to say to everybody that I played with in my younger years that just were E Honda and just spam the punch. I still hate you for it.
Yeah, he's not sorry.
No, I didn't do that to people. They did that to me, and I hated it.
You're not.
This was the game that definitely introduced button mashing.
And rivalries.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah. Oh my god, yeah! Like this was the game that like
you're a bad player, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, not me. This
Oh,
was the
you
one
said
that
you
like,
introduced. I'm button mashing now.
no. This
He's
is
saying
he-
people
he's
are
saying-
button matching against him.
Oh,
yeah,
got it.
that introduced button mashing to me, where I was like, wait, why are you playing like garbage? This is making me hate you in real life. Like,
Okay. I was going
That-
to say that I appreciate people button mashing.
no.
I could just
Oh man,
hit you repeatedly and win the game.
no. I
That
still
was
hate
kind
that.
of how that's kind of how I played it. Like, oh, okay. Look, I'm doing fierce kick. Look, I'm doing this. Look, I'm doing this. I'm doing an uppercut. Now I win. Like, could you please stop button mashing? I would try to. I didn't do it at the time, but I would try to teach people like how to play the game as I beat them. It's the best way to do it.
Yeah. No, I was like I had so much fun playing this game with people, and then I'd have so much anger against the people where all of a sudden like the match starts and all you hear is, and you're like, stop it, stop playing like that. You're ruining the game.
Kyle,
It's
you
not
can
meant
check
to
your
be played
Discord.
like that.
Well, with that, let's take a break, and when we come back, we'll discuss playing Street Fighter 2 today. Stick around. Welcome back, everybody. I hope you enjoyed that music. We're going to start off this segment with Cory. He's going to tell us how he played this game today and what his thoughts are.
Sonic Boom. No, I played on the Switch, the Anniversary Edition, and then I played on GameStop Online for a little bit today. My thoughts are it's still Street Fighter and it's still great, and you should probably play it if you've never played Street Fighter 2, because it still holds up as a well-balanced, well-developed, incredibly entertaining fighting game.
With good graphics too.
With good graphic. As an adult, I will say that I played a lot of Guile this time around, which I really didn't do as a kid, and still playing M Bison, and played a couple of playthroughs with Ken as well. So didn't really fall back on Dalsim as I did as a child. But yeah, I mean, there's nothing I can really say that we haven't really covered in the last like hour or whatever. It's a good game. It's fun, and it's a little it is a little more basic than, new fighting games. And in that regard, it is a little bit more, I would say, like cheesable, but it's still it's a really good title, and it's really fun, and the music is amazing, and the graphics look perfectly fine, and it's colorful and entertaining, and visually, appealing and fun, and just go play it. That's really all I can tell you.
And your favorite bonus stage is the barrel stage, right?
Yeah, of course. I don't understand what you're talking about.
The bonus stage.
Oh, the bonus. Yeah, okay. I didn't hear what he said. I thought he said the favorite bomb stage was the barrel stage.
Oh,
Yeah, we didn't even
no.
cover bonus stages, did
Yeah,
we?
we didn't talk about that.
Yeah, so sometimes in Street Fighter you get bonus stages and you get to beat up a car, and it's great. So do that.
Or you get barrels dropped on your head.
No, that's not as fun as the car. Beating up the
No,
car is
definitely
the
not.
most entertaining bonus stage.
That one's iconic.
Yeah, like
The
you
barrel
get to
one's
destroy
frustrating.
somebody's like whatever kind of like
luxury
sports
car at the time.
yeah. Like a
So-
BMW, beat the crap out of it.
The car featured in the bonus game is a first-generation Lexus LS400,
There you go.
I thought it looked
Also-
like a Lexus.
also known as in Japan, it's a Toyota Celsior.
All right.
Yeah. Had that off the cuff.
Is it
Boom.
because they made Lexuses in Japan?
I have no idea why they chose those particular cars. That's what Wikipedia told me. So,
All right then.
yeah. So, Cory, do you have anything else, or are you ready to hand it
No,
off to
man,
Chris?
like tell me about your favorite color, Chris.
What?
Go ahead. Tell me about the Street Fighter.
Hmm?
Did you break your brain? Are you good? Are you here today?
Mm-hmm.
Chris, how did you play Street Fighter 2?
30th anniversary edition on the Switch, and also against Sean doing that online, and that was a lot of fun. And which, by the way, the 30th anniversary edition is totally the online play for it is fantastic because, like, yeah, Sean and I were on Discord chatting while we were beating each other up, and yeah, there's no input lag. It's so simple and easy, and it was fun. It felt like we were just sitting on the couch next to each other.
Yeah, the networking code that they put into this game is fantastic. It's rollback, I think is what the term is. And it was so smooth. Chris is absolutely right. We could have been sitting right next to each other playing on the same console.
It's pretty dope.
And just worth mentioning that I won like what 7 out of 10.
Yeah,
I mean,
the
is that
vast
anything
majority.
to brag about though? Because Sean just.
I was going to
admitted-
ask who won, and I'm glad I know now.
It was not me. I was getting smoked.
Sean just admitted that he's never even beaten it. Like you can't.
Yeah.
That's a big handicap. Like you can't take that man out like that.
So, Chris,
As an
what else?
adult, I did try. Like I was determined this go around to learn Ryu's Dragon Punch, and I even looked up
Good.
YouTube videos how to do it.
He's been
Nice.
asking how to draw a Z with his hand. I can't believe it.
I can't do it. I can't do it consistently. If you can do 5 in a row without
No, I can.
messing
I
up-
can do it. It's not that hard. You draw a Z with the finger.
Nope, I don't believe you.
Chris, who'd you beat it with today?
Today,
Well,
You know,
this
in this
current
replay.
play time, not 1992.
Ryu the first time, and then I went back through and beat it with Guile, and I think I only beat it twice. I've been doing a lot of just single matches and fun,
Yeah.
jumping around, playing with different settings and stuff.
Do
but-
you play with Guile as like the versus character or Ryu as the versus character?
When I was playing against Sean,
Yeah.
I don't like to use the same character multiple
Well, who
times.
did you
I-
use?
Yeah,
Who was
well,
your
I mean,
first
yeah,
pick?
yeah. Who's your favorite character? Let's go around the horn.
Guile.
Okay, that's a solid character choice. Cory.
I'm gonna have to probably lean on M. Bison.
Okay, and then yeah,
Aesthetically, Vega is my favorite character design-wise.
Vega's
But-
awesome. Don't get me wrong.
But as far as playing, it's Ryu.
Okay. I'm a Ken guy and a Chunners guy. So yeah, you like everyone has picked a competitive character. But you figure you've sussed out all the good characters in the game, and now we're all talking about the good ones.
Yeah. Who do you want to?
Actually, my favorite is T-Hawk Kyle.
And no, T-Hawk sucks.
Who's your worst?
Oh, my
T-Hawk.
worst. My worst is Dulcium.
Yep.
Yeah. No, I was
Yep.
gonna say
I
Dulcium
hate
for me.
Dulcium.
Actually, I'd probably say Zangief because I just
Yeah, because
No,
you can't draw a
Zangief-
Z.
You're right. You suck with him, so that's okay.
yeah.
You could do a 360 move, and he'll grab and do his cannonball throw,
Yeah,
and it does a
Zangief's,
million damage.
Zangief's abilities are all Z maneuvers. Like,
Yeah.
Are
Or
they
no,
Z ones? No,
yeah,
they're not.
they're all like pattern draws like that.
Yeah.
Though. Like
No, he's got 2 specials. One of them is just I just now learned this is hitting all 3 punch buttons at the same time.
Oh yeah, that's hard. You have to
Yeah, that's
push
not too hard.
punch buttons.
But they're grabs, so you gotta time them right. No, wait,
Correct.
no, one of them.
No,
What's
one
that
is
little
the
spin move?
360. That's the 360.
Yeah, the
It's
yeah
a
when he
jab,
spins around.
and then when his animation's going on, you have to do the
The other ones?
360. Yeah,
And then the other one is the screw pile driver.
yeah, screw
That's
pile
why-
driver. That's
Yeah,
right.
you have to do the 360 and then push any punch button.
Correct.
So yeah, one of his specials
He's
being
more
a
difficult. He's a
grab.
grappler.
Yeah,
I do
But
want
he's
to
just
say
so huge
that
and slow.
it's,
Vega and Chunners and Ryu and Ken are really simple, And Guile's simple.
Guile. That's why I always mained Guile, even as a kid,
Yeah.
was
Well,
because
Guile's great because it's hold backward, push forward, punch
Yeah,
or kick.
push forward,
and
punch
then,
fronts. Yeah, you're good.
yep.
I do want to say though, and we touched on this briefly, but they managed to make very distinct and unique characters
Oh,
with
yeah.
their move sets. Even though Ken and Ryu, they eventually kind of deviated over time, but they're very unique design wise, character wise. Their backstories are all interesting. If you read the manuals, these guys, if you read the manuals, these guys are born in like 1960s.
Yeah, I know. They're all old now.
So this is something I could talk about a little bit. Every character in Street Fighter 2 and in Street Fighter in general is totally like gushing with characterization. Like they're all awesome. And they all have their own levels and music and moves. Like Guile
that
is
another
very
super cool
different
thing.
from Ryu. Ken is a little bit different from Ryu, but he's trained by the same guy.
Well, and to touch on that as well, Ken and Ryu were
Our
the
best
only two
friends.
characters. Well, no, they were the only two characters in the original Street Fighter, and so the reason why Ken is a clone of Ryu is because
Yeah.
he's literally just the two-player.
He was the two-player, yeah.
You know, and so the fact
That
that they've
definitely carried over.
Yeah,
He
they've
was the
spun him
Luigi to the
into-
Mario.
Yeah, they've spun him into his own person at this point, but he was originally just literally a clone because you had two players.
And as much as I love to rip on Dalsim and all of those garbage characters, like DJ and who else is a garbage character, Corey?
T-Hawk,
Oh, yeah,
T-Hawk kind of
T-Hawk,
sucks. He's not quite garbage though.
what's his
Balrog.
name?
Balrog, I hate Balrog. You're absolutely right.
Hate him.
But however, they're all their own people, and they all have different, unique move sets. And like Chris was saying, you pick a character you like. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I mean they
you
all
end up-
feel different. They all look different. Their visual animations, like even their punch distances and things of that nature, are all different. So
Yeah, you end up playing a character you like, which is one of Street Fighter's best
selling points.
Exactly.
Yeah, all really good points.
Yeah, I mean, like Kyle was saying, even the ones that kind of feel stupid to us, like Dalsim or like Lei Fang or Feng Long rather, or like
Fei Long.
Yeah. So even like people like that, or DJ or T-Hawk, like I'm not even a big fan of E Honda. Like even characters like that, it's like they still find an audience and they're still popular characters. They're just not popular with us,
True. So my experience with this, I also played on the Switch on the Street Fighter 30th Anniversary Collection. And before I talk about Street Fighter itself, Chris briefly touched on this with how good this game is. The Anniversary Collection has all the variations of Street Fighter 2. It has all the different Street Fighters up to that point. You have Street Fighter 3, you have the Street Fighter Alpha series. It has all these great games. It's absolutely worth picking up. 100% worth it just for that nostalgia factor alone. And this was done by a developer called Digital Eclipse. And these guys have been cranking out a lot of great retro collections since 2015. To name a few of them, they did the Mega Man Legacy Collection, the Disney Afternoon
okay.
Collection, the Samurai Showdown Neo Geo Collection, and most recently, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the Cowabunga Collection.
Oh, they did that one too? Awesome.
Yeah, that released on August 30th. So we're talking a few days ago. They've done such a great job of preserving these old games and bringing them to modern hardware with a ton of quality of life improvements and so much supplemental material that you could occupy yourself for hours just on that.
Yeah, I mean, this collection has 12 versions of Street Fighter in it.
Yeah, and I mean, it's 12 versions for $30 as well. Like, this is not a $60 like collection. You can get a digital copy right now for $30 on Nintendo's website.
And they added online multiplayer for what was it, Sean? For at least Street Fighter 2 Turbo, Street Fighter 3 Super Street Fighter 2. I can't remember. There's like 4 different ones that they added online support with.
Yeah,
Which
there's
was
like
never been done before.
There's 2 to 4 player online play for a bunch of these, and then there's 1 to 2 for single player, and like I think it's like 2 to 8 for like localized wireless as well. It's like there's a bunch of multiplayer capability on it. Like it's really a great series.
Really well done, and like a little virtual museum too. So
yeah, so I mean, if you're a Street Fighter fan, like I don't know why you wouldn't pick this up, honestly, because it does have like 12 titles.
And if you've never played the game before and you're looking for a way to play for the first time, this is also a great way of doing it because, like, I've just been doing the standard Street Fighter 2 version because, like, it feels like I'm picking up my Super Nintendo and playing it again straight from the Super Nintendo. Like they didn't, I don't know, try to
corrupt it in any way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they didn't try to corrupt it with any new, bells or whistles or anything. Like it's great.
It feels a little more forgiving for some of the inputs.
In terms of timing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That may just be me in my own interpretation.
I think you are right. I mean, because it was definitely felt harder as a child or like on an older system.
Well, my big thing, because I tried playing it with I did play this on the classic SNES with the the classic Super Nintendo controller, and playing it on D-pad compared to playing it on my little Switch Pro controller.
Oh yeah, on a controller,
joystick. Oh my god, a joystick makes a huge difference.
Yeah, doing those quarter circle forwards on a joystick is all the world.
Drawing a Z on a D-pad is so hard.
I never brought it up, but did you guys ever play the Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo HD remix?
No.
So this was done by Backbone Entertainment. It was, I believe, just a digital only title on the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3.
You know what? I think I did play that one time at my friend Tony's house, but I don't recall too much of it. But now that you're mentioning that it was on the 360, yes, I did do that once.
It released in November of 2008, and I briefly played this, and it looks gorgeous, but it was so hard. It was unbelievably hard. Pulling off the moves was hard, and I don't know if it was trying to use a PlayStation 3 controller at the time, or maybe it's because, like I said, this released by Digital Eclipse, the moves feel more forgiving. It's easier to pull them off.
Yeah, I think
that's kind of a thing with a lot of fighting games is that like Tekken is unforgiving, but certain versions of Street Fighter are very, very forgiving. So if this version wasn't as good or it was harder to play, for sure, it could have been the programmers or something.
Yeah, that's a good point. Let me finish up this segment and then we'll take a quick break. I decided to use Ryu, of course, for my playthrough. And this is just something that I always kind of do. Whenever there's a game that has a default character name, I always pick that. And with Street Fighter, Ryu is kind of the default guy. So that's who I wanted to beat the game with. I couldn't do it. I couldn't I get to in Bison, I get wrecked. I had to start over with E Honda and cheese my way through the game. I finally 38
what
years
difficulty
old,
settings?
Whatever default is.
Okay.
Normal.
Which is actually that's pretty tough.
It's like 3 stars, I think, is normal.
Which I will admit, even as a kid, I remember and playing this as an adult, I lost. I've been beat so many times. I've had so many death blows in this game so many times that the continuation screen and the little countdown in the light bulbs,
beat up faces.
Yeah, with the beat up face, Blanca's eyeballs falling out of his head for some reason. But that like sticks in my mind more than any other thing. Like my default memories are of me like hitting the continue screen because I've seen that continue screen so many times.
That's a good point. We didn't even mention that, and that's something that I saw so much in this playthrough. I suck at fighting games.
Hey, Sean.
Yeah.
Did you hear plenty of hop 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 hop?
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's burned into my brain now. So,
Yana just slapping people.
does anybody have anything else they want to talk about when it comes to replaying Street Fighter 2?
No, I think we've covered it.
All right. Let's take our final break. We'll come back for our last segment. And this is where I'm going to put in Guile's theme. Enjoy. Our final segment. This is where we're going to discuss how we feel about Street Fighter 2 in this modern day. We replayed the game. Is it worth playing again? Is it something that we're going to continue to play? Kyle, what are your thoughts?
I'm really glad to talk with all of you about video games because you generally choose the ones I really like.
We only have you on for the ones that we know you like.
Yeah, exactly. This is a game I really enjoy. So Street Fighter 2 has evolved into the mess that is today. And that's okay. You can find a Street Fighter game that you like or don't like. I've not played 5, but Street Fighter 2 is like the basis, the pinnacle, or not the pinnacle, but the foundation.
The archetype.
The archetype of being a great fighting game. And growing up with that means that you pick a character, you play the character. Every character is incredibly rich and great and unique, and that's what you go with. I'm a Guile guy. I'm a Ryu guy. I'm a Ken guy. I'm a Chun-Li guy. And you move on. It's a phenomenal game, and everything about it, the presentation of it, is absolutely wonderful. The artwork is amazing. The design of the characters is amazing. The music is amazing. Everything about it is like the most incredible game ever made. And you could sit down and play next to a buddy and go, okay, I'm going to kick your ass with Ryu this time. And that's what you get. That's the experience. And you're done.
Cory, what do you got?
Street Fighter 2 is super great. And you should play it. And if you don't want to buy it, there are other ways to play it. But you should buy the collection because it's a lot of fun.
And you should join our Discord and then hit us up to play online with us.
Listen,
Why isn't anyone in the Discord?
I don't know why people aren't in the Discord. Probably because we keep pushing the Discord. Listen, you scaring
Maybe
them
because
away.
we don't push it enough.
You're scaring them away. But no, I mean, if you guys want to play, if you guys want to come play Chris on the Switch in Street Fighter 2 and tell him to put his money where his mouth is, come join the Discord and you can challenge him to play Street Fighter 2 on the Switch. And then you can post pictures of you beating him so we can laugh at him. So please, come join the Discord.
I'm not saying I'm good. I'm just saying I'm better than Sean.
I'm saying you're good so that you get beat up by 15-year-olds.
I am not good. So I'm willing to jump in and get crushed to bring up anybody's ego.
Chris,
Chris, what do you
about
think?
themselves? Come fight Sean.
I think this game was great. It was a nice ego boost beating Sean. And it's, yeah, I mean, 9 out of 10, I highly recommend playing still. Like, I don't know, I've got a lot of nostalgia. So, like, I don't play a lot of modern fighting games. I don't know. What about you guys? Like,
I mean, I play a lot of modern games. This is just a wonderful.
No, you said fighting game.
Oh,
modern fighting games. But I mean,
no, not too many.
No.
I mean, this still, yeah, I don't play a whole lot, but I mean, it still holds up to me. And
I played that Injustice game I have anything
Oh.
to fight
I
people.
think the
no.
joke is
Oh.
in just ass.
But yeah, no. So great game, still holds up, still looks great. You know, this game definitely helped build Capcom's universe of cool games, and
That's a great segue, Chris, and I'm going to steal it from you. That universe, these characters are timeless. And that just goes to show how timeless they are because they've been in so many crossovers. You have X-Men versus Street Fighter. You have the Marvel versus Capcom series.
Excellent titles.
You have SNK versus Capcom. You have the Street Fighter Cross Tekken game that came out in 2012, I think. Even characters from Street Fighter made it into the latest Super Smash Bros. Game. That's how timeless these characters are. And this game, Street Fighter 2, all by itself, is such an iconic game, and it is so important to fighting games and video game history as a whole. Because without Street Fighter 2, you would not have nearly the depth of gameplay that you have in any of these other fighters that came out. So if
Can
you
I
had,
quick?
Yeah, go for it.
I said Doom was a pillar.
Yeah.
Street Fighter 2 is a pillar. It's one of those games that created an entire not a franchise but a genre. It didn't quite create it, but it was like the pinnacle.
It is
and then
genre defining.
Up. Yeah.
That's funny because after the Doom episode, Sean was going through the history. I'm like, oh, so Street Fighter, because I I played Street Fighter as a kid. And I was like, like how much history could it have? I was like, oh wait a minute. Like Street Fighter 2 is kind of like what Doom was to first-person shooters. Street Fighter 2 was what it is that to fighting games, to arcade fighters.
And I mean, I mentioned this off air, Sean, but Street Fighter 3 really kept the fighting genre alive throughout the late 90s because there really wasn't much going on as far as like home consoles or like as big as like Evo and those other like fighting
Those
tournaments and those
Mhm.
tournaments and like conventions and stuff. Like Street Fighter 3 was like really pivotal in keeping those alive.
Yeah, this series just means so much to video games and to a lot of people. It's just so great. Check it out. I suck at these games, but I'm so passionate about them. I love these characters. I love the universe. I cannot wait to play Street Fighter 6. And I'm gonna suck at it, but I'm still gonna get it. I'm still gonna play Ryu. I'm still gonna have a ton of fun. That's just what this game guarantees me. I know I can pick it up and have fun.
I hope Shenlong gives you an opportunity.
Guys, I think that's it. For those of you out there, you can follow me on Twitter at ReviewByte. That's Review BYTE. We're on iHeartRadio. Hopefully, you've heard the commercial out there. We have had a bit of a spike in listeners, so I hope that it's working. Chris has mentioned the Discord server multiple times. Nobody seems interested. I know you're listening. I know you're out there.
No,
We'd love to talk to you.
They're not real people. They're all bots.
If they're bots, man, that'd be disappointing. But the most important thing to me is just doing this and having fun. Speaking of having fun, our next game is going to be Streets of Rage 2. So
Which is an excellent side-scrolling beat 'em up. If you've never heard about it,
it is an excellent game, and I cannot wait to talk about it. Chris, Cory, Kyle, thank you guys so much for taking the time out of your day. For Chris and Cory, thanks for that extra hour you spent with me.
of course, yeah, it's a lot of fun.
For those of you listening, thank you. This is episode 15, but this is our 16th episode. Our next episode is going to come out on September 25th. That is our 1-year anniversary of the podcast. I really hope that you'll join us, and I hope that that episode has the most listeners. I hope that we break any other previous records.
There's going to be cake.
So far,
What?
Doom
There'll be cake for me. I mean, I don't know
Doom
about the
is
rest
our
of you.
most popular episode
Doom,
right
really?
now. Yep, Doom.
Oh, good.
I was telling them off air, it goes Doom is the most popular, then Sonic the Hedgehog, to Sonic 2, and then A Link to the Past.
Oh, all three good games.
Absolutely. So I think that's it, guys. I can't wait to talk to you again. It's always fun.